Hi, I'm Jeanette and I'm a psychologist, and I'm invited to give a little webinar for you about Corona. Let's start by talking about how it is for you, what you can think and what you can feel about all this, and why is it taken out on your kids. I mean, you're not to blame or you're not responsible for this virus, and it can feel very unfair, and you can feel very frustrated and maybe angry about all the precautions you have to take and all the things that happens for you that you don't really want and that's not nice for you. Maybe question, why can't I go to school? Why can I not see my peers? Why take it out on me? And it can all seems like it's a punishment, but actually it's protection. It's protection to prevent spreading the virus, and it's prevention of having too many sick in Denmark that has to go to the hospital. And that's not because everybody has to go to the hospital if they get the virus, but some are, and the capacity on the hospitals are not that big. So this is actually what we are doing here. So no, it's not your fault. You're not responsible for this, but you can be helpful by doing something, by taking care in the way that your parents and your teachers and the Prime Minister and politicians are telling you to do. Some of you sent me some questions, and I tried to ask them some all around in the material, but here I have some of the questions very direct. So, when does Corona end? We don't know. We actually really don't know. We know that there is a vaccine coming up very soon. Maybe it's actually even here between Christmas and New Year. It's today the 17th of December where we are making this little webinar, and we have just been told that more or less the whole of Denmark is going to close down again, but we also know that they're talking about getting the vaccine for the elders, and maybe they will be having it even before New Year. So, but I mean, even if we get the vaccine, it's not like then everything is perfect, then everything can get back to normal again. I think that in your mind you have to imagine that maybe not until around summer 2021, I mean the summer that is coming, it's going to be more or less normal again. But until then, I think you should imagine that we're going to have to take all these precautions and have this different life from what we know. And then one of you is asking, how sick do you get from COVID-19 or from Corona? And yeah, it's very different how sick you get. I mean, most kids don't get that sick. But I mean, it's the little older people. I mean, it can even be your parents, but I mean, it can more be the elder people that is getting more sick from this. But I mean, your parents might get more fever than you do if you get it, and might feel more sick than if you get it. And some people are getting very sick and need to go to the hospital to have some help to breathe, because it's infecting the lungs. It can infect the lungs. But I mean, mostly just don't have it like this. Most of the people, most of you can just, I mean, it just feels like you are having a normal cold. So what can you actually do? First of all, you have to understand and know and remember that it's the adults who are the responsible for all the precautions and responsible for helping you to remember what to do and when to do and what to do. And when this is said, you can do your best to wash your hands as often as possible. And when I say as often as possible, I don't mean every 5 minutes, because I mean then you get very dry hands and that's not good. But I mean, you have to wash your hands more often than you used to. Not only when you have been to the toilet, but also when you're entering a new place. If you come from outside into your home, go and wash your hands. If you come to somebody else's home, go and wash your hands. I mean, so you do it a little bit more often than you usually would do that. And then you can use sanitizer on your phone every day. I mean, you're sitting with your phone like this all the time, and we have to use the sanitizer, and to the computer or the iPad as well. And what you can do, that is very important, you can stop kissing and hugging anybody but your parents. That can sound a little boring, because it can be so nice to be with your best friends and hug each other and be very close and maybe sit on each other's laps. But I mean, this is not a good idea during this time. You have to keep some distance, because we know that the closer you get, the more easily you can infect each other. So you have to keep distance and not kiss and not hug. And I know that this is annoying. I know I just don't want to pretend that this is not annoying and that you are influenced in a frustrating way about this. But what I can tell you is that we know that if you are trying to kind of make the best out of this, to see if there's something you can do that actually could be interesting, or that could take your attention and make you busy in your brain with something else, I mean, then it can be much easier to get through this. So, I mean, could you find something positive to do during this corona period? For example, something that you normally wouldn't do. I mean, maybe you begin to read even more. There's a lot of good books out there. You can, I don't know if the libraries are still open. I think they are, but if not, you can, no, Tom is shaking his head, no. So you can, he's sitting behind the camera, I just want to tell you. But what you can download books, and you can find books everywhere. So you can read more books and see if there is something that maybe could really find your interest. And there's another thing you could do. This is just an idea. You could write a diary about being a child or a young person during the corona time. You know, when things like this happens, we say that history is written. We are in a special time. Nobody, I mean, your parents didn't try this when they were young, when they were kids, when they were at your age. Nobody ever tried this before during the history. So, I mean, you are experiencing something very special, and maybe you should actually write that down for the ones to come after you. I mean, maybe you could be a help to your great-grandchildren, or your great-great-grandchildren, or your great-great-great-grandchildren, to know how you felt and what you were thinking about during this time. So you could actually write a diary. During World War II, there was a young girl called Anne Frank. She was about your age. And she wrote a diary about how it was to be hidden from the Nazis, and that book was found after, unfortunately, she died. But I mean, she's very famous. That book is very famous today, and maybe you should check her out on the internet if you didn't know her, or if you haven't heard about her before. And what you can write in a diary is you can write about what you're thinking, you can write what you do during the day, how you are, what you think about your family, if you think they're annoying or if you think they're wonderful, sometimes both, you know, at the same time. You can write about what you think about your friends, when you are afraid that they are not as close anymore as you used to be, or when you think that it's really wonderful that you find out how to stay close even though it's a corona time. You can write about what you're afraid of, what you love, you know, everything, and just make sure that you save it in a good place so you can keep it for the ones to come after you. What if I get corona and infect somebody else? It's it's very important to know that even if you take care, you can get corona. Everybody can get corona. We know that. I mean, because we know that the young Prince of Denmark, Christian, he's, I think it's right now, he's having corona. And we know that the Prime Minister, you know, Mette Frederiksen, who's talking about how he's going to take care and how we are going to behave, she was isolated for a shorter period because she thought she had corona. So, you know, when they can have it, everybody can have it. It's not a shame. It's just, I mean, it can happen. But you can take precautions the way that you were told, and you cannot do anything more than that. So, you know, you can do this. Don't hug and kiss others. Remember to wash hands and to use sanitizer, and, you know, all these things that we already talked about. This is what you can do, and not so much else. Unless somebody tells you that you have to do something else, then you, of course, you have to listen to that. And again, you have to remember it's the adult who is responsible to help you to cope with this. So if you are afraid or if you are worried that you don't do it well enough, talk to your parents, talk to your teachers, or talk to somebody else who you think you can trust. I mean, an adult you think you can trust, so you can help yourself to not be that scared or not to have so much anxiety around this. And what if I get corona? How is it like to be isolated? It sounds scary. Yes, it sounds scary. But I can tell you, to be isolated, it's isolated from a lot of people. It's not isolated from everybody. I mean, you have to be in your family. It's not because you're kicked out of home. You have to stay with your family. Maybe in a shorter period you have to stay in your room, more or less. It depends on how long you will have symptoms, but you know, as long as you have symptoms, you have to take precautions, and your parents will help you to figure out how you can do that. Maybe in a few days you will have your meals served in the room or something like that. But I mean, coronavirus is not, it's airborne, we know that, but it's not going to fill out the whole apartment or the whole house. So, I mean, it's only 1-2 meters, so you could even have the door open so you could stay in contact with your family. And maybe that's a good time for you to, watch some movies or, doing something, that is different. And if you have a fever, if you're not feeling too well, I mean, it can be nice just to be in bed and sleep a bit. But I mean, if you are more or less okay, then you don't have that many symptoms, and then you're not going to be isolated for a long time. If I'm sick with corona, how do I keep up with school? At these days, right now, you know, everybody in your age is online taught. But if it's in a time where your peers are taught in the school, I mean, then it's your teachers and your parents who is going to make a good plan about what you are going to do and how you can keep up with school. If you're sick, then you might not be able to concentrate that much. So then there will be made a plan for how much and how little you can do to keep up with school. And if you are away for a few days, I think don't be afraid that you will not be able to follow when you come back. Then some of you are afraid of what your peers are thinking if you get corona. It's like some of you think that it's your fault and it's shameful, and it was because you behaved wrong somehow. And maybe you are talking with your peers that way, that it's because you didn't do what you had to do. But I want to tell you, everybody can get it. So, I mean, and maybe you should talk about that in school, that everybody can have that, because, I mean, it's not shameful. But what you can be afraid of is that you might be lonely, that your peers are forgetting you and you're not a part of the group or something like that. And again, I can just tell you that I will advise you to talk with your parents and some adults about this, so they can be there with you, talk about it, because these are feelings that can be very hurtful and very scary, and don't keep it for yourself. Maybe your parents or the adults that you talk with say, oh, this is nothing, you will soon be back in school, and you don't think that they take you very seriously. And then I would advise you to say, it's like you're not listening to what I'm saying, because I'm actually afraid about this, so please, can we talk about it? Because, I mean, it's nice to be seen and heard. And some of you are afraid that your parents will get angry if you get corona. And again, I can just tell you, everybody can have it. Even your parents can have it. And if they get angry, I mean, again, it's not something that you can be responsible of, but maybe they get angry or annoyed because it's a little frustrating. Then they have to get away from the work. Everybody has to be isolated. Everybody has to be tested. And, it's not that much fun, but I mean, it's not your fault. So maybe that's even a good thing to say to your parents. I'm so sorry all this is happening, but I think I feel it like it's my fault, but I know it isn't. So can we talk about this in another way? Yeah. Some of you are afraid if you can die from corona. And I have to say, I will not lie to you, so I have to say, yes, it's possible to die from corona, but so far no kids have been dying from it in Denmark. And it's mostly older people over 60 that has been that sick and has been on hospital and has died from corona. But it's not very usual. I mean, it's very seldom that people die from corona. Most of the people are having smaller or more heavy symptoms, but a very few has died from it. I have taken a quote from one of our doctors in Denmark that we see and listen to in the telly all the time, and she said that no children under the age of 18 are registered as dead in Denmark as a result of COVID-19. There are fewer children who are diagnosed with COVID-19 than adults, and it also seems that children become seriously become seriously ill to a much lesser extent. So, I mean, this is some of the facts that you could actually find if you go and ask some of the questions on the internet. And again, if you find facts like that, talk to somebody that is your parents or teacher or another adult, so you can check the facts with them. I'm worried about. Yeah, some of you are very worried about a lot of things, and some of you are worried about what happens if my mother and father loses their job. And I can understand that you worry about that, because, I mean, it might happen, because we know some are fired from their jobs because of COVID-19. And I know that your parents can be very worried too, and if they are worried, you will be that. So we know that it takes out on the whole family if there's problems like that. And the only thing I know to do about this is to talk about it. Talk about how worried you are and that you're sad to see your parents so maybe frustrated or sad or whatever they are. But again, you really need to remember it's not your fault and there's nothing you can do about it. You didn't cause that they couldn't have a job. You can only talk about it with them. Some of you is worried about when can I play with my friends again. And again, I have to say we don't really know, but in some sense you can already play a little bit with your friends because you are allowed to see each other in smaller groups, but maybe you cannot play in the way that you're used to. You have to figure out some other ways of doing it. I mean, but I mean, if we're talking about when everything is going back to normal, I think you have to imagine that it's around summer next year. What do I do if my best friends are not, my best friend are not allowed to play with me because their parents are very afraid of getting infected? Yeah, that might happen. And I can understand if you get sad about this and if you are sorry about this, and but you kind of have to accept it, because I mean there's nothing to do if it's like that. But I can advise you to talk about it, to talk with your parents, some adults or a teacher, about how sad you are about this, so you can be taken care of and be listened to. And most of the times what you are allowed to do is to talk with your friend on a chat maybe, or you can text with that friend, and I mean you can see each other in another way, but and you're even allowed to talk about together that, oh, how unfair the adults are, the parents are. It's okay, you can feel like that, but I mean, even if you feel it like that, you have to accept it. Another idea about what you can do, it's not about this with the parents or the peers, but just, I mean, this is just an idea that you can think about. It's the word corona. Do you know what corona means? Have you thought about that? The word is derived from Latin or from Greek, and it means crown or halo. And when you look at the pictures here at the left, why do you think the virus is called by this name? Have you thought about that? And another thing you can do about, I mean, if you're going to play a little bit with the word corona and the vision of the coronavirus. When I was a child, it was very popular to take a tangerine and put a lot of cloves in it, because it smelled so good. You know, it's good at this time of year to have this good smell. And can you imagine the picture of a tangerine with a lot of gloves in? Can you see what it looks like? Maybe it's something fun for you to do at home. I mean, to make a competition. Who can make the best Christmas candy that looks like a coronavirus? I don't know. I mean, but maybe you can make a little bit fun out of this. What if a classmates get corona? And as I just talked about, many of you are afraid of what your classmates will think if you get corona. So it's really a good idea to treat each other with kindness if it happens. I mean, it could happen to you, it can happen to everybody, and we all want to be treated with kindness. So you can be sweet and caring towards your body by remembering to text and ask how your peer are doing, for example. Or you can have an online contact and chat together. Maybe you can even be a group of peers that can be online together. I mean, from wherever you are, you can meet in Teams or wherever you can do this. You can ask with curiosity. I mean, you should not interview your friends harshly, like, where did you get it from? Did you forget to wash your hands, or did you not keep distance, or something like that? I mean, because we all did what we could to take our precautions. So much more talking about how are you doing? Does it hurt? Are you very tired? Is it something that we could do here together that might be fun for you? You know, much more something that could be compassionate and caring about your friends. And you must remember that all of your classmates need attention if they get corona and are isolated at home. It's not only your very good friend, it's everybody. And actually, I think you might talk to your teacher about how you can have some peer groups where you actually take care of each other. Now, when you can't meet each other as usual, how can you then be friends? It's hard not to be able to see your peers as usual, and you can easily get the fantasy that the others might see each other anyway, but you're the only one who doesn't. I can tell you, this is not the case. But again, if you feel it like that, I mean, it can feel, and you can have a fantasy that it's really real. talk with somebody about it. Talk with your parents, talk with your friends, maybe even talk about how you can have a fantasy. I think all of you have that fantasy, so why don't you talk about it together? And what you can establish an online life together, where you can do some of the things that, I mean, you can bake cakes together, but I mean in each home. So you're not together, but you can film and you can maybe even make the same cake, or you can talk about a movie you have seen, or you can play chess. There's a lot of things you can actually do together without sitting in the same room. Most of the time it's also possible to meet in small groups, to, for example, to go for a walk or to meet outside. What you have to remember is that you have to keep distance. Don't kiss and hug. Don't get too near each other. I mean, this is the precautions you have to take, but you can actually meet, you can see each other, but with a little more distance than you usually have. And again, remember that all of your classmates need to be a part of the group. It's not only the one that you care very much for. All of your peers needs to have a friend, or to be a part of that group. And you might create groups together with your teacher, where you agree to meet not only in an academic way, but also in a social way. And then let's talk about how you and your peers are talking about Corona. If anyone has heard a rumor, or if anyone has heard something very scary, or if anyone has had an unpleasant experience, I mean, there can be a tension to be very dramatic when you talk about that, and that can be very scary. I mean, the more dramatic and the more you listen to the rumor and you don't know the facts about it, the more dramatic it can feel, and the more scary it can be, and then you can feel anxiety and be worried. I will encourage you to check facts. To check facts on your own, or to check facts with your parents, or to check facts with your teachers, or somebody else that is competent to check facts with you. When all this is said, I know that you can have this sensation of being uneasy inside, or being hectic, and I will give you a little exercise that you can practice. You can try to practice meditation. I have a little link here, and I'm sorry, right now it's in Danish. I think that Dom will find a good one when maybe, and put in another link to you, English-speaking children. But it can be nice to have a taught meditation, or a coached meditation, and it's good for many things. Meditation can be good for you to learn to concentrate, to calm down inside. It can even make you have a better sleep. Can make you become less scared. Meditation can actually be good for so many things, I can tell you. But it's not because you only do it once. Meditation is something you have to practice on a regular basis. So maybe you should give yourself 10 minutes every day to practice meditation, because then you can be more calm inside. This is not a substitute for talking to others. I mean, you still have to talk with your parents and with the teachers or with other adults about how you're doing, but this can be a little help to self-help to help yourself. And with all this said, there can also be other help available. I mean, I've said a lot about talking to your parents, or to your teachers, or some other adults that you trust in. But maybe you think that it's difficult because maybe you don't think they listen that well, maybe you think they're too busy, and maybe they don't take you that seriously as you would like them to do. And then I can encourage you to talk to call the Children's Helpline. there is this children's helpline that you can call, where there will be advisors sitting there with their ears listening and with their big hearts and their good understanding, and they are there for you. They really want to talk with you and listen to what you have to say. I can tell you that they might say, "Hej, det er Børns Vilkår." Maybe they say it in Danish, but then you just say, "Sorry, I speak English. Is there anybody there that can speak English?" Because most likely there will be somebody, they can find somebody that can talk with you in English. So the number is here on the slide. And yeah, I hope that you learned a little bit more about Corona and you felt a little bit more understood about how you feel about Corona. And yeah, so I'll just say thank you for now and have a good Corona time.